This is a fan-generated show. If you'd like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our new Rumble channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm thrilled to announce the release of my new book, Obama's True Legacy, How He Transformed America. There's a reason why Mike Huckabee calls it a ferocious and chilling read. Order it now at Amazon.com or at FrontPageMag.com. Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. Tonight, another fantastic program with another fantastic guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please, in the meanwhile, always remember we're a fan-generated program. We're only here because of you, so we need all the help we can get. Please subscribe to our YouTube and Rumble channels. Click instant notifications. Visit us at jamieglazov.com. Subscribe to our newsletter there. If you have some extra finances, help us out through that site, through our PayPal link, jamieglazov.com. Subscribe and follow us on Twitter/X at Jamie Glazov. Follow me on Facebook at Jamie Glazov. But perhaps most importantly, our producer, Annie Cyrus, on the front lines fighting for liberty and for America and for freedom worldwide. Support her and visit her at liveuptofreedom.com. What an honor and a privilege for us this evening to have a superstar with us, Michael Lauber, the host of the incredible show, The Insurrection. Michael, why are you privileging us with your incredible presence?
Well, there's a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss. We've got an election to win in just a few weeks coming up. So now is the time to rally the troops and to cut through all the mess and the garbage from the fake news media, get to the truth, and make sure everybody on our side of the equation makes it to the polls.
Well, I got a little secret because the wonderful Annie Cyrus, who did an incredible job filling in for me as host while I disappeared, had you on, and you and Annie created such great episodes on my show, or on our show, that I had to bring you back because you guys did so well that I was just afraid that if I don't have Annie and Mike around anymore, maybe the Glazov Gang will sink. So I got to keep you coming back because you did an amazing job. Thank you so much for keeping the Glazov Gang not just alive, but giving it an incredible, let's say, boost. Thank you, Michael.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here. And Annie and I'll go ahead and make a little announcement. Her and I will have a weekly program launching here in the next few weeks. So keep your eyes on Live Up to Freedom and on her Twitter account, Live Up to Freedom, or at Live Up to Freedom, and mine at Real Mike Lauber. We'll have some announcements coming up where we will be launching a weekly program again.
Okay, I'm feeling a little bit left out. Will Jamie Glazov be involved in any way, or am I out in the rain?
Oh, I'm sure we'll have you on there too. But yeah, I mean, I really appreciate the privilege to come on here and be able to speak to your audience and discuss everything. And then all the opportunities working with Annie over the years and the opportunities she's helped create. And she's kind of convinced me to come forward to quit my day job, what I used to do for a living, and instead enter the arena here and help fight to save America.
Well, thank you so much. Look, I wish you and Annie all the success. You guys are wonderful, brilliant people. And the viewers of the Glazov Gang should know that Michael Lauber is often behind the scenes making the Glazov Gang the great success that it has become. Thank you, Lord, and thank you, Annie Cyrus and Michael Lauber. Mike, I almost did it, popping the champagne cork. Time to party tonight. The death of a demon. This Sinwar character, Hamas, leader of the Hamas terrorist organization. Looks like the Israelis have knocked him off. I think this is, look, this gets complicated because we know that you kill one of these demons, they're replaced by another 1,000 demons overnight. But still, when you take out an evil man that causes so much suffering on the planet, we can celebrate for a little while. And I think that it's also devastated Hamas on several levels. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. They smoked this guy after he'd only had, I think, around 70 some odd days on the job, after smoking the last Hamas leader. And, I guess what I find kind of interesting about the whole thing is, yet again, we find this guy Not only was he eliminated, but at least one, possibly two of his bodyguards were UN affiliated people that worked for the United Nations. One was see, it was Anthony. I think his last name was Gutierrez. Let me look at my notes here. And then the other one was apparently a teacher that also worked in Gaza, but they have not released the other person's name. But why do we always see this crossover over and over again, where we see UN officials getting caught in airstrikes immediately around people that are involved with Hezbollah, Hamas, or other terrorist organizations, specifically Islamic terrorist organizations, over and over again? Like, is anybody asking this question? Why is the UN affiliating with these known terrorist entities?
Well, thank you for bringing that up. Such a vital point, Mike, because, yeah, with UNRWA, he was apparently a teacher with them in some school or whatever, whatever that window dressing they use. But these international bodies, these international organizations, just filled with anti-Semites, Jew haters, and terrorists. And yet the whole world blames Israel. And so this Sinwar demon, he was very much a leader in terms of planning and executing the October 7th massacre. So he got his just desserts. And apparently, they really want to, go to Islamic paradise with the 72 virgins, and they make all the Palestinians be, suicide bombers and, put their lives on the line and all that stuff and die for jihad. But this character apparently was on the run, hiding in the tunnels, burying himself underneath children and civilians, and also, they say, putting himself very close and near the vicinity of the Israeli hostages, and even the tragic case of the ones just recently executed in those tunnels. They say that he was very much hiding amongst them. So this is a coward, an SOB, and in terms of what I've been reading today and the news reports coming out, that on some levels, this has devastated Hamas further, and that some progress can be made in terms of Israeli objectives.
Yes. Yeah, and it sounds like this, as you said, coward was trying to leave the battlefield, escape over to Egypt, and it was after a year of using the Palestinian people and their hostages as human shields. Let's not pretend it's something other than what it is. It's exactly what it is. They want to hide him amongst children, amongst other people, to gain sympathy in case he is struck down, or their other officials or their weapons caches or anything else are attacked by the Israelis. That way they can run their sympathy story on one side and use that as cover, and get their willing accomplices in our corrupt media to tell that side of the story. Oh, yeah, they attacked a hospital, killed all these people, and then they fail to mention that this was really a weapons cache, or they were firing rockets from the roof of the school or the hospital or the mosque or whatever it is that the Israelis were forced to strike because they're being attacked from these positions. These people have no honor. They have no sympathy. They will do whatever it takes to accomplish their goals. They don't value the lives of the Palestinian people at all. So the quicker we can pull these pieces off the board and eliminate Hamas, the better the world will be.
Well, thank you, Mike. And what frustrates me always very much, and of course, so many of us that see and know the truth, just this ongoing discussion of a ceasefire. Oh, the Israelis need to do this, and we need a ceasefire. What kind of effing ceasefire are you talking about? Hamas's charter, Hamas's very existence is predicated on exterminating all the Jewish people in Israel. And to be honest, if we're truthful about it, and what these individuals and organizations and this ideology really wants, is to kill Jews all over the world, and then to move on to the Christians, and then to move on to all non-Muslims. This is Islamic jihad. And people are saying, oh, Israel needs to have a ceasefire. I mean, what are they talking about? If the Jewish people in Israel, Dennis Prager often makes these profound points, and this one especially, if the Israelis laid down their arms, there would be a genocide against the Jewish people by the Islamic forces surrounding them. Yes. If the Islamic Arab forces surrounding them, including the Palestinians, laid their arms down, there would be peace. And that's the bottom line. And Israel right now, in terms of what it did with the pagers, in terms of what it did with Nasrallah, now what it did with this SOB, this is what the United States should be doing. And now today or whatever, Biden's kind of taking, he's taking credit. He's saying that it's because of him. He's trying to get the credit for the killing of Sinwar. But the Biden regime, these are the people that have been trying to stop Israel from doing any of this. What do you make of it?
Oh, yeah. Biden's desperate for a win right now anyway, but he can't grift the credit away from the Israeli military and their operations. Yeah, and kudos on the pager operation. That was absolutely brilliant. But yeah, you can't negotiate with terrorists. The Biden regime has been carefully trying to walk the line here because there's an election. They don't want to lose the Jewish vote, but they also have all these crazies under their tent. The pro-Hamas, pro-terrorism wing of the Democrat Party. They don't want to lose those votes either. And those people are crazy enough to just sit at home and sit the election out, thank God. Because Biden won't turn on Israel and cut off the funding, attack them, or anything else. Biden's in a difficult position, but they've created this monster themselves by their coalition of victim groups and this whole idea of intersectionality. A lot of these groups, in the long run, their values, their desires, everything they want don't align, or they're exactly counter to each other. So now they're paying the price for that. Now they can't be seen as supporting Israel, but they also can't be seen as going against Israel, and that's not a line that's possible to walk. Biden had nothing to do with this strike, I'm sure, unless, well, even, according to what I've read, the Israelis didn't even know this Sinwar was with the group when they attacked them. This was an ambush as they were patrolling in Gaza, in southern Gaza, and he just happened to be amongst them, that it was basically a chance encounter. So Biden had nothing to do with this. Not that he won't remember this 3 days from now anyway, but he had nothing to do with this. He's just trying to insert himself into the victory and grift some credit to himself, but it's not going to work.
Well, thank you, Mike. And look, so the left is, I've dedicated my life to documenting this and understanding it. The left always allied with the adversaries of freedom and with the United States. So there was I've written about this in my book, United in Hate. So there was the alliance with communism, and then after 9/11, especially the alliance with Islamic Jihad began, and it continues. And now we really see it after October 7th. I mean, the left was just in ecstasy. And so the Democratic Party, which has become really a communist party, they're very Islamized, and they've got jihad just penetrating the Democratic Party, and it's no coincidence. The catastrophe in Afghanistan, what we see happening in the United States in terms of the growth of, a Sharia influence. And so, as you're also referring to, if Biden and Kamala become too pro-Israel, they're going to have a difficult time with this growing force amongst them. And this is very sad and very, very tragic what's happening now in terms of this. So I want to turn to Annie here for a minute, because we always need Annie's wisdom on this. And I don't want to speak for her. But just to introduce this, Annie always very wisely and profoundly warns the nature and the ingredient of Islam in all this. And so, yes, we can celebrate the killing of Nasrallah, the smoking of Sinwar, etc. But somebody like Annie tries to tell us, hey, look, yes, these pawns might be gone, but Islam remains. And let's not celebrate too much in the sense of thinking that we don't need to keep fighting, because the ideology is still there. And, these pawns will be replaced by another 1,000 pawns. So we have to keep that in mind. Sorry if I misspoke for you, Annie. What do you think of all this and in terms of what I said?
Oh, no, you didn't. Not at all. That is very correct. My bottom line to add to what you said, bottom line is, as long as
Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader of Islamic Republic of Iran, is alive, I personally won't celebrate any quote-unquote victory here, because I believe, if I have the date correctly, Yahya Sinwar replaced the previous head of Hamas within, I think, 5 or 6 days. And somebody's going to replace him, and somebody else is going to replace him, and on, until someone somewhere decide to actually go for the head of the snake, which is Islamic Republic of Iran's leader. That's just the bottom line. But I want to address two things on what you said, Jamie. If the Arab Muslims would put down their weapons, there would be peace. Let's quickly refer to Quran, chapter 47, verse 35. And do not be weakened, and call for peace when you are superior in numbers. To expect Muslim Arabs and Iranians and Afghans and Pakistanis and Hindus, Indians, to expect them to put down their weapons and create peace goes against everything they believe, which is Quran. So that is somewhat of a false hope or a delusion to expect. Now, another thing I want to address about Yahya, the hypocrisy. You're correct, Michael. He didn't have much time as quote-unquote leader, but he joined the Hamas terrorist group in 1987. Since 1987, he was behind 5 major operations. He's not being mourned as a leader today. Hamas is panicking because they lost one of their most ruthless, brutal, brain behind operation. That is where we can say yay, because that is going to be a little harder to replace. They can replace a leader, but they can't replace his sick mindset of coming up with these ideas to take out thousands at a time. But the hypocrisy I want to say is Palestinians out there are mourning. I want to talk to quote-unquote Palestinians for a minute. Did you all know Yahya wasn't... Did you know Yahya was Egyptian? Did you all know that? He might have joined Hamas, and he might have jumped into the Gaza conflict and Palestinian crisis, but he was not a Palestinian leader. If we're talking truth, let's talk truth. Let's face the fact that there is no such a land as Palestine, which you refer to yourself as Philistinians, coming from the Philistines of the Bible, the enemies of the Jews. At least wear it proudly. You want to be the enemies of the Jews? Well, come out and say it. Don't pretend like somebody came and took your land. You never had a land. And I close that with another example of Quran. You can look in the Quran and you can find more than 130 verses that the word Israel is in it, either as Israel was a land or, O Bani Israel, sons of Israel. But there's not a single one word of neither Palestine, Palestinians, Philistine, or Philistinians.
Michael, thank you, Annie.
Yeah, well said. And you're exactly on point that they've come to believe the myth. But actually, I want to go back to something before I lose the thought. You know, a lot of this that we're seeing in the U.S. right now with these pro-terrorism, pro-Hamas college students, like we've really got to do something to go in and just gut this poisonous ideology out of our schools and our classrooms here. It can't be allowed to flourish. It can't be encouraged anymore. This is bad for everyone. Not only do they have this manufactured version of history and these indoctrinated beliefs against colonization, but they're dangerous. This ideology is radicalism at its purest form. And right now we're seeing, just protests on college campuses and everything else. But how long till we start seeing them carrying out bombings or killings or other things here on U.S. soil? To me, it seems like they're already fully radicalized. So it's just a matter of time before they bring that same ideology here, and it'll be in the name of freeing Palestine or against Israel or whatever. These people don't know anything. They just know what they're told. They're like little robots, but they've been programmed to think this way. They don't have independent thoughts of their own. That's highly dangerous. And it's the same thing that we also see with how the people of Palestine are indoctrinated. One of the most powerful things I saw, actually, Annie, was there was a gentleman that you had on that goes into these schools in Palestine and documents what they have, the murals on their wall of suicide bombers, celebrating the death of Israelis. It's sick, and the fact that they're willing to use their own children as weapons, that is a high honor, that does make it an endless threat that Israel must address, must face down, and must eventually destroy. Otherwise, they will not exist.
No, absolutely, Mike. And what we find, the campuses were always toxic, but now it's not just the toxicity. And I mean, when I was in academia, I didn't care. I had my own friends outside of academia. I don't need to be popular. I stood for the truth, and I was marginalized, and lots of other words can be used to describe how I was treated because I'm a conservative, and but I stood my ground. But a lot of people in academia are very scared to do that. You get marginalized, you get shadow banned in your own way, and you get slandered, etc., etc. But now it's actually dangerous. And so there's a lot of cowardice on the campuses, but now it's almost a little bit understandable. I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying how dangerous the left has become. Because if you're pro-Trump, I mean, on an American campus, there's going to be trouble for you. But if you wave an Israeli flag on campus, we've already seen it. The violence the physical violence can happen and is very prominent there in terms of a threat, but other kinds of soft violence will happen to you, so to speak. And so this totalitarianism and terrorism is on the American campuses now, and that's how the left works. And these students and all these activists, they just go along with the left because it takes a very wise, very brave person to oppose the left in these communities. And there's just an idiocy because of that. I mean, recently we saw there's these two girls at this protest, and they're anti-Israel protest, and the interviewer says, there's some journalist there, he says, "Why are you here?" They go, "Why are we here again?" And recently, as we know, on TikTok, there's this, I don't know if pro-Hamas idiot is a good way to describe her, but she's on TikTok. The video's been taken down, I think, right now, but she was tearing down what she thought were Israeli flags from this Greek restaurant. I think it was Effie's Gyro in New Jersey, and she doesn't even know what an Israeli flag looks like, and she's just tearing down these flags outside this Greek restaurant because of genocide. And then they tell her, "Hey, look, we're a Greek restaurant. This is not an Israeli flag." It's just, it's a mind-boggling idiocy among these activists, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and it's a lot of them are completely clueless. They don't understand anything. They just regurgitate the talking points that they've been told. It's the popular thing to do. It's what the in crowd is doing, is hating Israel and calling out genocide. But they don't really. It is dangerous. Like there's been numerous assaults of Jewish students on these college campuses. There's been numerous instances where they've been forced to flee, hide in back rooms till the police can get there to rescue them. It's terrible. And then there's almost no consequences for the pro-Hamas, pro-terrorism faction of both the student body and the professors and administrators. I mean, yeah, I do know a few of them that have actually been thrown out of their position or charged with crimes, but by and large it gets ignored. And when there's no consequences for acting like a fool and harming other people and violating the law and violating their rights, then it will just continue to happen. It continues to be encouraged. And that's what really makes this ideology so dangerous, is that the state is essentially encouraging it by refusing to prosecute or penalize the people that are violating other people's rights, assaulting them, and disrupting things on campus. If we were to put the shoe on the other foot and it was an Israeli group doing this, you can bet they'd all be thrown in jail. They'd be charged with whatever it would be, causing a disturbance or whatever. there would be consequences for their actions, as there should be if you're shutting down things on a college campus and harassing other students. But again, it's the same thing that we see over and over again. If you have certain political views, those are embraced, rewarded. You won't be you won't suffer the penalties for your actions. But if you have a political view that differs from whatever the narrative is, then they will throw the full weight of the courts at you.
No, absolutely. Thank you, Mike. And we can't make this point enough, and we have to keep beating away at it. This one of these main slanders and libels against Israel of genocide, and that's what this moron was screaming about during her TikTok video. And let's just be clear: it's the Islamic forces of Hamas and Hezbollah, etc., that are involved in genocide and the impulse behind genocide against the Israeli people and against the Jewish people. And we can build on that too in terms of our discussion of what Islam is doing against Christians throughout the world, in Nigeria and many other places. And Christians and Jews do not do this back. And their religious texts do not sanction and inspire any of this. And so we can't make this point enough. The Israelis have always tried to avoid civilian casualties. And Hamas knows that. And that's why they hide behind civilians. That's why they use civilians right in front of them, and they hide behind them because they know that the Israelis do not want to kill civilians. Now, when civilians do die, and when Palestinian civilians do die in this conflict, it's because Israel has to defend itself. It has to take very regrettable actions. And the death of these civilians is something Israel itself regrets, but the blame has to go on Hamas, because Hamas is the one that's waging this genocidal campaign and war against Israel, and Hamas is the one that hides behind civilians. What would you say to that?
Yeah, again, it's self-evident. They love their human shields. They love putting, firing positions on hospitals and mosques and schools and wherever else, because they know their friends in the media will focus on the civilians that were killed and not the fact that Hamas was using them as human shields. It's a sick ideology. But again, it's also, it goes to point out this dishonesty within our own media. Again, if they would be honest about the situation, reported as it is, that Hamas is, in many cases, chaining people to their facilities or installations, or using rooms in hospitals with patients that are on life support that can't wake up to even know that there's something going on, and they're taking advantage of them because they know that those civilian deaths will be reported. These wackos here that hate Israel will use that as fuel for their outrage. It is intentional. They're very good at manipulating the press, manipulating the media. We have to give them that. Israel doesn't want civilian casualties. As you said, they are very careful in planning these attacks. A lot of times when it is essentially an assassination going out to take out an individual leader of Hamas or Hezbollah or whoever else, they take every precaution to make sure there are no civilians nearby, or if it's just the family of whoever, they wait to strike till it's an opportune time where they are most likely only to kill their target and there's to be little to no collateral damage. But sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes there's high value targets that you have to take the opportunity where you know where they are and eliminate them right then, so they don't pop up later to kill more Israelis and also, honestly, to kill more Palestinians and whoever else they're going to use as future human shields. They have to be taken out when the chance presents itself. And war is war. Israel's fighting for its survival right now. And they are going to occasionally have to do things where civilians will be amongst the dead, but there'd be a far fewer if Hamas wasn't openly and willingly using them as shields and trying to attempt to use them as protection for their military operations against Israel.
Brilliant, profound analysis, Mike. Before we move on to the other issues of the day, Annie, a conclusion on this issue?
Sure. Let me do what I always do. For anybody who thinks Michael is crazy and Jamie is Islamophobe and they're making things up, Let's quickly go to one of the most credited hadith book of Muslims that even Shia Muslims and Wahhabis do follow. And in Sahih al-Bukhari, book 56, there's a hadith number 139 that says, it's narrated by Abu Hurairah. Allah's messenger said, the hour will not be established until you fight with the Jews. And the stone behind which a Jew will be hiding will say, oh Muslim, there's a Jew hiding behind me. Come and kill it. Now, we're going to go again, Sahih al-Bukhari, book 46, hadith 37. What does it say? Again, Abu Hurairah said, Allah's messenger said, the hour will not be established. We're talking about the same day, people. The hour will not be established until the son of Mary, Jesus, descends amongst you as just a ruler. He will break the cross, kill the pigs. Who are the pigs, by the way? Jews are the pigs, just so you know. And abolish the jizya tax to uniform the Mohammedans. Ladies and gentlemen, the hadith itself says the hour will not be established for Muslims until Jesus walks from Christianity. All the Jews are killed, all the pigs are killed. I'll let you be the judge of it.
Thank you, Annie. And this is completely ignored in our establishment media. They always, when they look at, when they cover the Israel-Palestinian conflict, they're always talking about land, some kind of occupation. This is a problem of Islam, and I wait for the day, I'm not going to hold my breath, when they invite Robert Spencer on, when they invite you on, when they invite David Wood on to discuss and explain the Islamic theology that you just referred to, that's at the core of this war against Israel, the Jewish people, against Christians and non-Muslims throughout the world. We're going to take a quick break with our sponsors because the Glazov Gang would not exist without them. We'll be right back.
Looks like you've been sleeping well.
Megan, he's back. The My Pillow guy.
And you're looking good.
Still feeling good.
Well, just when you thought it couldn't get any better, we've got the best pillow ever, My Pillow 2.0.
Wow, it's so soft and smooth.
It's cool to the touch. How did you do that?
Well, we took My Pillow's patented fill and combined it with this new technology that we didn't have back then when I invented My Pillow to bring you the best pillow in history, My Pillow 2.0. Just like all of you, I never imagined that My Pillow could get any better. That's why I haven't changed it in nearly 20 years. Then I heard about a revolutionary new technology, and I knew I had to bring it to you all. My Pillow 2.0 is truly the next generation of My Pillow.
The My Pillow 2.0 is cooler and softer than the last My Pillow. It is so comfortable to sleep on at night. I look forward to going to bed, and I wake up well rested in the morning.
Sleep is all about temperature and height. My Pillow 2.0's patented adjustable fill is going to give you the exact individual support you need from your head to your bed. And now here's where it gets even better. We've all experienced those temperature-related sleep interruptions where you get too hot, you toss and turn, you flip your pillow over to the cool side. Well, all that's gone with my brand new My Pillow 2.0 cooling fabric that's made with temperature-regulating thread.
The best sleep just got even better. Whether you have a MyPillow or not, you need to get the brand new MyPillow 2.0. Call or go to MyPillow.com now. Use your promo code, and for a limited time when you buy one, you'll get a second one absolutely free.
You're sleeping even better.
And cooler, too.
And you're looking good.
Feeling good.
I knew you would.
Visit mypillow.com.
And that's right. Make sure to go to mypillow.com or mystore.com and use promo code GG21. You can get a discount of up to 60% off on all the amazing products. You're going to be helping out the Glazov Gang as well as Mike Lindell. And if you like one-of-a-kind handmade art, make sure to go to lutfstudio.com and purchase resin art pieces made by the one and only, our producer, Annie Cyrus. Use promo code GLAZOV to get special discounts. And you're helping out the Glazov Gang, as well as the wonderful and amazing Annie Cyrus. We are back with Michael Lauber. Michael, were you really inspired by Kamala's performance on Bret Baier the other night?
Well, it was a performance. I will give you that. I don't know that inspired is really the right word, but honestly, it was kind of what I expected. She hasn't been able to string a coherent sentence together that wasn't read off a teleprompter ever. I don't know that she answered any questions at all that he asked. She just kind of talked in circles about whatever she wanted. She brought up Trump over and over again. Apparently, he's been running the country for the last 10 years, which I was not aware of. But no, I mean, I think it was a disaster. Her team knows it was a disaster. The polling and betting markets reflect this. Honestly, I think her campaign is over at this point. But we all need to make sure we get out to the polls, that we're contacting at least 10 people we know in our state, making sure they get out, contacting 10 friends that you have in swing state, making sure they get out to vote. Because at the end of the day, the margin of victory has to be greater than the margin of fraud. And that's my bigger concern right now than Trump beating Kamala Harris.
Yeah, exactly. Because the fix is in, and we know how these Dems behave. We saw what happened the last time. That's what worries me, because we know when we look at the stadiums that Trump is filling, we know who the American people support and who's going to win. It's just a matter of what these globalists and their puppets here are up to, and if they succeed in that again. And I'm very worried about that. Because even if Trump wins, what they'll do in terms of saying making the situation how he didn't win like they did last time, or even what they're up to now in terms of they might not even let him into office. Let's talk about that in a sec. But first, just let's talk about this interview. Kamala's talking over him, obsessed with Trump. Baier has revealed that she came late on purpose. She came late. I'm saying it's obvious that she came on purpose. And he also has revealed that the Harris staffers during the interview were like waving their hands and saying it's enough, it's got to stop. So the people around her, they know she's a disaster, right?
Yes. And I think they knew she was losing from the first question forward. They wanted to cut this as short as possible. So I'm sure they were panicking offset, trying to get Bret Baier to cut it short. So they might be able to fool a few people out there, or get the extreme leftist cheerleaders, people like Mark Cuban, to pretend that somehow this interview was a victory for Kamala Harris. And yeah, maybe she got a few of her girl boss moments in there, with the "I'm speaking" or whatever it was that she said this time to try to cut Bret Baier off. But the rest of America's not buying it. People in the middle wanted her to answer policy questions a month and a half ago. She took, 70 some odd days to put policy positions up on her campaign website. They literally copy pasted those, complete with grammar errors, off Biden's page. She's a disaster. They know it. And a lot of people saw this video. Everybody's been trying to play games with reading the lips of Biden and Obama at the Kennedy funeral. And no matter which interpretation of the lip reading you take, it ain't looking good for the home team. Even they don't believe she can win, that she's done for, that this campaign is over. If you believe some interpretations, Joe thinks he should stay in the race, should have stayed in the race. But, that's not true either. But yeah, this interview was a disaster, and that's on top of numerous other interviews that were disasters that she's done in recent memory. 60 Minutes was horrifyingly bad. Even with the edits, it was bad. And I think that was kind of the point where the high water mark, where she started losing numbers. Well, I guess they started losing numbers in the polls after the VP debate, but it's been a slow slide downhill, and I think it's about to go to a tumble, especially if the betting markets are any indicator of that. Let me pull up exactly where she's at in Poly Market right this second, because I've been watching this, and just in like the last 40 minutes, she lost another 0.2 of a percentage point. So let's see where we're at right this second. Let me hit refresh here. And so we have right now, according to Poly Markets, which is a betting market people putting their money where their mouth is. They have Trump at a 61.7% chance to win and Kamala down to 38.3. When you go to the state by state numbers, all the battleground states are now either leaning Trump or firmly in Trump's camp, according to where people are putting their money, including Arizona now. It's just switched over to firmly in Trump's camp. As we go to the RCP polling averages, we now have Trump up 2 to 3 points, 4 points if you factor in other candidates that are running in some of these states. This is not looking good for Kamala's team, because we also have to remember these polls in the last 2 election cycles have vastly outsampled Democrats, especially in the state-by-state battleground races. If we were to believe the hype from 2020, at roughly this point, within a day or two of where we're at, Biden was up 11 points in Pennsylvania. Well, he won it by a fraction of that, by a little over 10,000 votes, a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a percentage point. So let's just cut that in half. If we've already got Trump up 2, then realistically, he's probably up at least 7 points in PA. We know that also with ballots coming in states where they have party registration, even in Arizona, Maricopa County, right this second, over 50% of the ballots that they have in from early voting are from Republican registered voters. So this is where normally the Democrats should be ahead. They are more likely to come out ahead of time or send in mail-in ballots, depending on what the state allows. So if this far out from the election, the Republicans have more ballots in early voting, and we can expect them to surge even further ahead, same day voting, I tend to think the margin of victory is beyond the margin of steal, and that their backup plan to keep Trump out of office is something else. I think this is why they moved his sentencing date for this garbage conviction in New York to after the election, that's their fallback plan, or they're going to use procedural maneuvers in the House, as Raskin has said, and other Democrats are now starting to say, to prevent Trump from being seated as president if he wins the election in November, which I believe he will.
Yeah, they're up to something. I mean, my worry is, what Dinesh D'Souza showed in his film 2000 Mules, and we saw what was going on. I mean, Trump is ahead, like in Pennsylvania and other places, like with hundreds of thousands of votes. Then all of a sudden they stop counting, and they put up all these billboards on the windows, and they stop counting. And then all of a sudden 99% of these new ballots that come in are all for Biden. It's just all very eyebrow raising stuff. So I really hope that they can try to, that the conservative side will be able to try to stop a lot of that this time around. I don't know. But even if Trump wins, they're starting to cook up some plans of not even letting him in. And I think there's some other stuff they're planning too. I think that these globalists, I think that they want to cause so much unfairness and injustice to make the pro-Trump people rise up, and then they use the American military to crack down on them. What were you going to say, Mike?
Well, they did just authorize the American military to use lethal force on U.S. civilians, so you may be onto something there.
Yeah.
But we do have to remember, and honestly, I am very afraid of efforts to steal the election by either shutting down county or other things. But we can only do what we can and what we have control over. And we do have to remember something else. We don't have mass mail-in voting in all the states that we did in 2020. Now, I know that there are states that have made it easier to do mail-in votes or have expanded in-person prior to election day voting, or other being able to vote ahead of time. That started even a few weeks ago now in a couple of states. But they aren't going to have the mass mail-in votes like they did in 2020. Not in every state. They're not going to be able to have magically materialize 200,000 or 600 and some odd thousand ballots in Pennsylvania after the fact. They're not going to be able to pull those same kind of shenanigans in Georgia and have 200,000 extra ballots that go 99% for Biden show up at 3 a.m. They just don't have them this time. But there are other ways that they can steal or manipulate. Like, we really do have to worry about all these illegal aliens that have been registered to vote in a bunch of states. As Muckraker, as Anthony Rubens pointed out over there, they're taking buses of them state to state, having them registered to vote using one of these illegal alien holding facilities as their home address, and then having ballots sent there. But we don't know how many that is or isn't. We do know that some of the states now are cracking down on this. Virginia, they're getting sued now by the Justice Department for cracking down on illegal alien voters and, again, being in compliant with their own state law. And the same with other states. They prevented Arizona from removing just a little under 200,000 illegal aliens and dead people from their voter rolls because there might be some legitimate voters on there. But I just don't know that they have the juice to pull what they pulled before, because I think the margins are going to be a lot more. Like, you can only insert so many ballots into a lot of these races, which is something I think a lot of people miss, that there are limited numbers. They do have to have a name to attach the ballot to. They do have to have an address and a person that hasn't already voted. So I think this is going to be a lot more difficult for them to steal with procedures that I think their backup plan is something after the election. And that's where we're really going to have to put our feet down and ensure they're not allowed to steal a victory from President Trump and probably from numerous other conservative Republicans that'll win state races in various locations.
Well, it's interesting that what they're trying to do too with the election coming up, like all of a sudden here in LA, guess what's coming back? Oh, and all of a sudden the face diapers are starting to increase. And now they're going to start mandating it in the medical buildings and stuff. And, I just roll my eyes to that. But I'm waiting for the dancing nurses. That'll be a sign. The nurses should start dancing to the choreography and to the music soon on top of the buildings and stuff. Let's see if that comes up. Very interesting stuff. Michael, just when I watch Kamala, and sometimes I'm criticized for still using certain words to describe certain people, but I don't know any better words. Is she mentally retarded?
She might be. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to giving her a cognitive test. Let's put it that way.
And that's what Trump was trolling her on Truth Social today, saying that they should do a test.
Yeah, well, they probably should. She's clearly out of touch with reality. No, I mean, honestly, I think this is intentional. Most of what she's saying, she knows the media will run cover for her, that she can go with whatever narrative she wants. She can change position on issues multiple times, and few, if anyone, in the mainstream media will call her on it. So that's what she's counting on. She's counting on, her campaign isn't really her campaign. Her campaign is the lies that are fed through the dinosaur media on every channel, on CBS, MSNBC, NBC, ABC. That's her campaign. Her campaign is, these harpies on The View. It's celebrity endorsements. And it's also the fact that, a lot of their voters, they're not really in touch with the issues. They're more concerned with cultural trends. That's why they tried to run Kamala initially as being a brat, as being like the new hotness, the next hot thing. It's never been about her issues or what she's going to do for the country or anything else. I also think that's why she's resorting now to these desperate, essentially bribery, giving black men or forgiveness for loans that she will issue of $20,000 for them to start small businesses or get involved in the marijuana industry, which, by the way, as a prosecutor, that was one of the key demographics she targeted. She put, I think it was over 1,900 people in jail for marijuana possession while she was a DA in California. So, her hypocrisy, that's another thing our media refuses to call out. If she changes an opinion on something, it's an evolution. If Trump changes an opinion or an approach or whatever else, it's hypocrisy, or he's evil, or now he's just doing this to garner votes. He doesn't really mean it. Yeah. It's her, but yeah, her campaign isn't her. She doesn't matter. She's irrelevant. She's an empty suit, just like Biden. She's just a corpse, a body to fill the position while somebody operating the marionette further up pulls the strings for everything she does. And they know that. It's rule by committee, rule by experts. And there's enough people in the left now that apparently want that. They don't want an actual leader. They want a committee. They want a room full of cigar smoke and shadowy figures making the decisions for the puppet that they have in the office.
Well, absolutely, Mike. And I think that, you go, behind that is Obama, and then you go over here, and then there's the larger thing and the larger thing. And these people, the Democratic Party and the leaders now, they're not leaders. They're being controlled by other forces. And in my Christian view, I think when you keep going behind the scenes, you get to Lucifer eventually. And so that's why it hurts so much for us because we're waiting for our Lord Jesus Christ, and praise Jesus. And he's going to come back, and we've already won through Christ. But there's a timeline on this earth. So we know that Satan's down here. We know that on many dimensions he rules, and we're going to have a lot to suffer during this time, and especially during the period of the Antichrist, etc. So we have to prepare to be persecuted. We have to prepare and get used to these evil people being in charge. And Jesus, he warned us that when they hate you, remember that they hated me first, and that we will be persecuted, etc. But sometimes when I think that these demons have it all in the bag, that all of a sudden it's like, wow, on some levels they don't, because good sometimes prevails, and there's miracles. And there was a miracle in 2016 when Trump won. And right now you referred to it with Obama at that funeral with Biden. Sometimes I'm thinking, wow, so they don't control everything? Because he looks kind of upset. He's upset about something. And you know that he was upset recently in that other video that came out where he's lecturing, the black people that they better start thinking properly because they're black and they better vote this way. I mean, just total racism, telling black people how they need to think because of the color of their skin. I mean, it just violates everything that MLK Jr. stood for. But in terms of Obama and at that funeral, they seem to be worried about something, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think they're very worried the direction things are going right now, because they may have all their robots on the left, all their dedicated people that will vote blue no matter who. But at the end of the day, they can't win a race without grabbing at least some people in the middle. The other big change that the Democrats especially are dealing with right now is change in voter registration since 2020. Democrats had a slight advantage in voter registration in 2020. Do you know what the voter registration numbers are as of a most recent survey that was done, Jamie?
No.
47% Republican and now 40% Democrat, with the remainder being independent or third party.
Wow.
So the Republicans have a huge advantage in ballot registration. That's really damaging. But here's the problem with our side. Our side still thinks that this is a battle of ideas, that going out there and having the best plan, making the best points, winning the argument is what's important. Democrats see this for what it has unfortunately become, and that is a battle of who can get the most pieces of paper, who can go out and get the most votes through any means necessary. That's how they play. They don't care about messaging or anything else or consistency. They know the media will tote the line for whatever narrative they happen to need at the time. In the end of the day, they see it for what it is, and it is a battle to get the most pieces of paper turned in by November 5th. And that is how our side needs to look at this too. We need to take the rules in each state into account and then play just as dirty as the left does. We need to go out and bother voters. We need to do ballot chasing, ballot harvesting. If we can't get the rules changed to where it's same day voting on election day with paper ballots hand counted, then sorry, we got to play the game by the rules that exist. We can't live in fantasy land and pretend this can only be won by ideas.
Michael Lauber, you are a very astute, brilliant political observer. I think you would make a great political campaign manager. We are out of time, but we cannot leave without the brilliant conclusion that Annie Cyrus will offer us to this program.
I'm not sure how I can be more brilliant than the two of you. You pretty much covered it all. But I will just add two things, aside the fact that I completely agree with everything Michael said. Get out there and vote. It's your duty. It's your right. Do it. But also, I want to add something else. We all have our shares of worries. We all have our shares of, looking into the past, trying to learn from history so we don't repeat it. All of that, absolutely there. But let's bring one important topic into the closing of our program tonight. Remember, God has a plan.
Yes.
Amen.
However, we are all part of his plan. Do not sit on your couch and expect it to happen. Do
Amen.
listen to his guidance, pray over things, and then follow his path, and let's save our country, because I promise you, there is nowhere on this earth left to go. We have got to save America. So thank you, Michael, for your wisdom. Thank you, Jamie, for allowing me to join you in this discussion.
Thank you so much, Annie. And you are correct. Praise Jesus. And let's also just not sit around. We have faith, but we also have to be active and participate in fighting the forces of evil and fighting for what's good. Michael Lauber, for those viewers of the Glazov Gang that are not yet lucky enough or privileged enough to get more wisdom from Michael Lauber, where do they go?
Well, you can find the Insurrection live at 9 p.m. Eastern every Tuesday and Friday on Rumble, X, and possibly back on YouTube here. We'll see what happens there. But I want to say, Jamie, you're exactly right. And Annie, this is a battle between good and evil, but it's going to require each of us getting up off our couch and doing something to win. And it isn't just the fate of America that hangs in the balance right now. I honestly believe it's the fate of the world. Because if we don't get real leadership back in DC and somebody cleaning up this hive of scum and villainy that's there, we're going to be in World War III. There's going to be war throughout Europe. There'll be war throughout the Middle East. China will seize Taiwan. And I really, honestly, sincerely believe that Donald Trump is about the only one that can prevent some of these things from happening. Maybe not even all of them. But if we don't have a Trump victory in November, we will not have an election in 2028. I am firmly convinced America will be done for.
Wow. Michael Lauber, thank you for joining the Glazov Gang. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you follow and check out Michael Lauber. He's the host of The Insurrection. And we'll see you soon on the Glazov Gang. Good night.